Greetings to my fellow Peace Blunderers, and today we've got another funny yet instructive famous blunder video. This time on the operation table we've got the man, the myth, the legend, Hikaru Nakamura. Last time we covered Magnus Carlsen's most famous blunders, 4 of them to be precise. You should definitely go and check that video out as well after you're done with this. And in no way I am trying to laugh at these players, they are stratas above us mere mortals, but still, they do make blunders sometimes, don't they? And when they do, it's not without a reason. And that is why it is very important for us to learn from their mistakes, to see where the mistakes came from. And yeah, at the end, just have a teensy bit of fun as well. A quick note before we start, all of the 4 blunders I'm about to show you are from Rapid and Blitz games, not from classical games. It was really difficult for me to find proper blunders by Hikaru in the slow ones, and I really couldn't find any. That just goes to show how solid Hikaru is as a player, and after all, he's a super GM. Only blunders when under time pressure. Alright, let's get into the blunders, and the first one is going to be very, very simple. A lot of you guys, including myself, can definitely relate. This game was played against Magnus Carlsen. Magnus is playing as white, of course, and the material is equal, but the position is very, very shaky from Black's perspective. Their king is torn open. There are no pawns in front of the king directly. There are these pawns, but they're not doing a very good job of protecting some of the weak squares like g6 in front of the Black's king. And the lingering threat is, of course, that devastating bishop and queen battery staring at h7, staring at g6. Looks very scary. Magnus, however, is not looking to do anything explosive just yet. Simple development move. Magnus is probably well aware that he's winning. He just gets his rook onto e1, rook f2 e1, and what Hikaru did, no one expected. Hikaru played queen g7, and some of the more observant of you will already have seen what the problem is with queen g7. Just look at this bishop. It's hanging. Queen takes c5 and Hikaru goes fuming. Yeah, funnily enough, all of these games that I'm about to show you, including this one, there are clips of them on the internet out there on YouTube. You could definitely check them out and see Hikaru's reactions to each of these blunders are absolutely golden. He's absolutely devoted, and it's quite obvious why, because he just blundered a piece against Magnus Carlsen in a very important game, although it's a rapid game. Now, going back a little, let's try and explain why this blunder happened. And I think that this is a very good example of what we call tunnel vision, right? A lot of Hikaru's attention, I would assume, was on that king side that is quite damaged, and don't forget about this battery that I was showing you. So Hikaru is probably very worried about, his king getting in trouble, and, maybe the knight is coming into play at some point in the future, something like that. And quite naturally, perhaps, Hikaru wanted to solidify his kingside a little bit with moving the queen to g7, trying to cover this weak g6 square, trying to make a bit more of a difference on that side of the board. But sometimes when we focus on one single part of the board, and when we focus on one specific job that we want our piece to do, we forget that that piece may have been doing another very important job before that. So the entire focus was on that queen going to g7, protecting the king side a little bit. Hikaru completely disregarded the queen side and forgot that the queen, although very humble on e7, the queen was still doing a very important job. It was protecting that bishop on c5, which it's not doing on g7. Classical. So when you move a piece, don't only think about what it starts doing after you move it, think about what it stops doing after you move it as well. Blunder number 2 was played against Giri, also in a Champions Chess Tour, but I think it was a different year. This position is also better for white, just like in the previous one. White has an advantage. Yes, their pawn structure is a little bit compromised, but there's no doubt that with the bishop pair and with so much pressure on the Black's territory, look at these pieces, white is dominating. And I'm mentioning that for a very good reason. You see, sometimes when all the game you just defend, and you're worse and worse all the time, and you are constricted and your position is so miserable, you just grow to hate your position so much. You just want to do something active, and doing something active sometimes comes with a blunder. The blunder is not coming just yet though, because Hikaru plays a very good move, knight 8 to g7. You see that this knight is kind of pinned, otherwise the bishop would take the rook and the game would be truly over. So that knight may need just a little bit of extra support, and I find this idea very good, also preventing further f5 pushes. Now Anish also played a very good move, one of the best, rook b2, very simple, attacking that undefended b7 pawn, and I think this is where the psychology element kicks in. Hikaru is like, okay, so he's threatening my b7 pawn, I literally don't care. He undefended his a5 pawn, so once I take it, which he did do, bishop takes a5, yes, like rook takes b2 is going to follow. This rook is quite nasty, but at least I will get some counterplay. Maybe later down the line I will get a passer. I will finally get some acid I'll be able to use. Little did Hikaru know that after bishop takes a5, which is our blunder, knight e7 coming with check and a fork, forking king and rook. The rook is about to go. Again, if we go back, that bishop where it was on d8 was doing a very good job of preventing that rook coming with knight e7 check. And this is a mixture of a bit of frustration, again a bit of tunnel vision, focusing on the capture of that pawn, takes pawn on a5, and completely disregarding what the bishop stopped doing once it moved away from d8 and now finds itself on a5. Knight e7 check, and Hikaru resigns. Number 3, and we have another game as black from Hikaru's perspective, and we have another game against Magnus Carlsen. Boy, these guys just play a lot against each other. Now, in contrast to 2 previous positions, this one is equal. This one is not one where Hikaru is losing. So it's not like he is forced to do something, forced to maybe try and get a winning chance. However, we all know Hikaru, we all know he's a bloody aggressive player. So in this position, he plays a very interesting rook e1, which is going to be the eventual blunder. But the idea behind rook e1 is quite inspired, because if you think about it, the rook is attacked by 2 pieces at the same time, and if rook takes, for example, then the rook is no longer protecting the f2 pawn, so we have queen takes f2 with check, forking the rook and king, and after king goes to h3, we can recapture that rook, rook takes c1, and black is a pawn up. And of course, if queen takes, it's even worse for white, because after rook takes, it may seem like it's a queen for 2 rooks, so it's not so bad for white, but we have the same idea. Don't forget, queen takes on f2 with check, forking the king and rook, and after king h3, queen takes on e1, and black has got too much material. So all in all, a very interesting idea, but it fails miserably to a very nice, very slick bishop takes g6. And this is the moment where Hikaru yet again did one of his face expressions, and yeah, he was not happy about that. After bishop takes g6, no matter what happens, first of all, the f2 pawn is going to be protected this time by the rook on a2. Don't forget that with the bishop on c2, the rook was blocked. Now it's not, but that's not even the most important part. The most important part is that, well, for starters, we've already lost a pawn with bishop takes g6, and the pawn doesn't seem like much, but when these guys are playing, it is a lot. And of course, the bishop is securing the queen and the rook. And white is already winning. Black has got no good counter to bishop takes g6. Check this out. For example, the queen was defending g6, of course, so we can take the bishop, but we're just going to play down an exchange after rook takes e1. And you know, this rook can also take, but it doesn't really change anything. We've lost a pawn and we're down an exchange. White is winning. And of course, there is more interesting rook takes on d1, and you may be like, okay, so I take your queen, you take mine. It's fine, but no, of course. Don't forget that we took the queen with the rook, and they are going to take the queen with the bishop. So after bishop takes on f7, we take that bishop with king takes f7, and now rook takes rook on d1, we yet again find ourselves down an exchange and down a pawn. And there are two things that I would like to say here. First of all, whenever you commit to these tactical complications with rook to e1, we need to 100% sure it works. You know, sometimes when there is a funny looking move, we don't know if it's good or not for us, but we just want to play it because it like looks exciting, it looks good, and it will surprise your opponent. Well, rook e1 definitely surprises your opponent in that position, but when playing this kind of stuff, make sure look at every single possible capture, check and whatnot, so that you don't lose material like Hikaru did in this position. And the second thing may seem like a nitpick, but if we go back again, see how every single of our pieces is on a light square, except for the one that cannot physically be on a light square, which is the dark squared bishop. So whenever we find ourselves in a position like this one, we always need to do background checks on all kinds of possible skewers. When your opponent has the bishop, which can attack a lot of the targets, you need to at least somewhere in your subconscious check these kinds of things. I know in this position, I can't really fault Hikaru for not doing that, but in a lot of positions that are simpler, me and a lot of other players, we fail to do that, don't we? We often find ourselves lining up on the same diagonal, our queen and our rook, and then we do a surprise Pikachu phase when our pieces get skewered and we lose material. So don't do that. And it's only fitting that the last blunder is going to be in the endgame, and this time it's black again. Oh, Hikaru can't get a break, can he? Against Levon Aronian. By the way, Levon himself featured in my Shocking Blunders by Super GM's video. Check that one out as well. It's a lot of fun. Now, this position is a dead draw, and you know, the players of Hikaru's and Levon's level are definitely more than good enough to draw these endgames, even under time pressure, but boy, something interesting happened. Now, the first couple of moves are not particularly important, just moving forward, some checks. Hikaru gets to take a pawn on h2, but this is still okay-ish for white. Levon is trying to promote his c-pawn. Now a couple of checks follow, and this is a very interesting point in this position. This is why I didn't start with a blunder. I started some moves ago. This is where Levon actually blundered terribly, and so you can call it 2-in-1. Levon played rook c3, and what Levon missed is that after rook takes c3 check, king takes c3, this endgame is actually winning for black, because the black has got an extra pawn for starters, and second of all, the c pawn that white has got is stoppable, whereas the two pawns that black has got are not. But it was a double whammy for Hikaru, since he didn't only blunder later on, but also he didn't see this quiet, easy win. So instead of taking the rook on c3 to Levon's relief, he played rook e2. Now Levon still tries to promote, of course, c6, king g4, defending that f3 square with the king and trying to promote his pawn as well. c7, very close, but Hikaru plays, of course, rook to e8, temporarily stopping that pawn. And now rook d3 with a relatively obvious idea of rook d8 blocking that rook on e8 the black has got. And this is where Hikaru made the blunder. What he was probably thinking, he was like, okay, f3, rook d8, f2, haha, I'm promoting. So if pawn promotes, I promote with check, so it's going to be equal material, plus I've got an extra pawn. And if rook takes on e8, I also promote with check, and then at some point I will get to fork the king and the rook that is going to be on e8. So at least a draw, maybe I can somehow scrap out a win with that extra pawn on the h-file. However, after next Levon's move, Hikaru just got off his chair and stormed out of the building in pure anger and frustration, because Levon did promote, as Hikaru may have thought he would, but Hikaru could not promote his pawn and deliver this check, because Hikaru completely overlooked the fact that promotion comes with check as well. And yeah, there is nothing black can do anymore, so has to treat the check, of course, something like, I don't know, king g3, and the rook that is on d8 also escapes after something like rook d3 check, and has to treat the check again, and going to lose his rook, and this is just game over. And yeah, this is a very good reminder to us that when we have positions with simultaneous promotion, make sure that your opponent's promotion does not come with check. I have lost quite a few games, actually, where I have missed the same thing. I was like, okay, promotes, and I may probably draw. But when my opponent promotes with check, I don't get to promote and I lose. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if you could relate to at least one of these blunders. And if you just so happens to find this video useful, please like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitch. I stream Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Find me on chess.com. Join our Discord. All that good stuff. And I'm going to talk to you very soon. My favorite unintentional gambit is. Love you all. See ya in the next one.